It might be a holiday weekend, but the tech news never rests. So, I'm seeing this article here with AMD possibly readies Radeon RX 6300 Navi 24 low-end graphics card. Now, where is this coming from? This isn't from one of the usual leakers, rumors type of thing. Instead, this comes from an updated Linux 5.19 kernel with new AMD GPU pulls submitted by the company. And the key detail here is that it features a brand new beige Gobi SKU. Now, why would a new beige Gobi SKU mean anything? What is a beige Gobi anyway? Beige Gobi is the code name for Navi 24. That is the low-end RDNA 2 chip. So this is where we get products like the 6500 XT and this RX 6400, if I'm remembering correctly. So getting a new beige Gobi SKU that has never been listed anywhere else, the ID number is right there if you're curious, is leading people to think that we could either be seeing some kind of a refresh on, maybe your 6400, 6500 XT, or even a 6300, because we don't have anything listed for this right now. But it does say that AMD manufactured a mobile version of the RX 6300M, which is speculated to coincide with the unreleased graphics card. So I think that's where they're getting the 6300 number from here. But there's not a lot else to go on at this point, just that we might expect some kind of low-end Navi 24 based GPU coming out soon. Now, how about AMD Ryzen 7000 CPUs possibly having an advantage in memory speeds, at least they're base speeds, over Intel's Raptor Lake? We're expecting Raptor Lake and Ryzen 7000 to be coming out around the same time. We don't know exactly which one will come out on exactly which date, but we have now seen the first motherboards listing specific support for Raptor Lake, and they're listing that support as 5200 megabits per second. Now, really this just comes down to this particular motherboard right here, which again is listing the 5200 megahertz as its native memory speed. Now, that's not a lot to go off of here, and that's actually faster than it was listing the speed of the Alder Lake chips on that same board at 4800 megahertz speed right there. So anyway, there's your comparison. Now we're expecting to see Ryzen 7000 speeds as high as DDR5 5600. So that would kind of line up to a 5200 being an 8.3% increase over what we saw for Alder Lake on that board. But then 5600 being another 8% increase over there for Ryzen 7000. But this isn't a lot to go off of here. It's just one little screenshot on a motherboard, so I don't want to dwell on it too long. But hey, for just a minute there, I had some hope that we were going to see Intel's Arc GPUs coming out, maybe soonish, because it showed up on their website. You could click, except the clicking didn't actually work. But it listed Intel Arc A3 for desktops next to where it listed Intel Arc A series for laptops. But that has now disappeared. It's back to just being the laptop ones again. So, yay! Anyway, the main thing, just as a quick refresh, where are we at with Intel desktops and GPUs and expecting them to come out? Well, they've pretty much confirmed that it's going to initially launch as a China OEM exclusive, and then, that's going to system builders and OEMs in China. Eventually, they'll expand that retail market, but we don't have specifics on exactly when that will happen. So, almost got my hopes up there for a second. Now, on the plus side, with one of the big questions being their drivers and whether that's actually the issue causing all of these delays in the first place, it is nice to see Intel actually getting a game-ready driver out for the Sniper Elite 5 launch around the time that AMD and NVIDIA managed to do so. Although we do still have some nice known issues lists here. So anyway, just glad to see Intel working on that and getting a game-ready driver out there in time. Now, one thing I'm excited for, with the Ryzen 7000 launch, we saw the PCIe Gen5 support, and that's going to be allowing these PCIe Gen5 SSDs to just reach utterly insane speeds. Like, honestly, who really needs it? I don't know, but it's cool. But Phison was demoing their new PCIe Gen5 SSD controller on an engineering sample reaching up to 12 gigabits per second read speeds. So we don't have an exact model or launch date here, but I believe we are expecting towards the end of 2022 as far as the launch date for any of this. I believe the write speed was up to 10,000 megabytes per second. And the theoretical bandwidth of this controller, I think, the bandwidth of PCIe Gen 5 could go up to 15.8 gigabytes per second in each direction. So obviously, there's a lot of room here on Gen 5 for some pretty crazy bandwidth here, and they did show the specs and a little bit of a screenshot on that. Anyway, I'm excited to see what happens with this. Now, kind of interestingly, there's a Chinese domestic NVMe SD controller manufacturer who's planning on launching a 14.5 gigabyte per second PCIe Gen 5 solution in 2023 for the enterprise segment. Now, there was an announcement here that I initially got excited about, but then I'll show you the actual specifics and I was less excited, but maybe it'll work for you. ASUS announces major price cuts on PC components, including graphics cards, motherboards, monitors as part of its Infinity campaign. So, infinite gaming, don't stop the game, guys. Now, when you look at this, okay, they're giving some prices off of some high-end components here. Now, I was mostly interested in the graphics cards, and I was like, wow, $300 off, $250 off, $200 off, $200 off. But off of what baseline price? Where they were actually selling for, or, what? So I scroll down here to get some of the details. You can dive in here and look at if any of the other stuff interests you. I was looking at the graphics cards, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if these are such a quite amazing deal here. But apparently, we're seeing like, wow, you could get a 3090 for $1,900. Well, I could get one for a lot less than that. Yeah, it's ROG Strix. But again, I've done videos on why I don't think paying an insane amount for a cooler makes sense. Although at the absolute high end, maybe it does. Because if there's just not a better graphics card to buy, then you might as well spend your expendable income on a nicer cooler, I suppose. But the point is, like, 3080 12 gigabytes do come down to around $900. So even discounted, this is still $150 over a lower-end cooler design on that same GPU. The ROG Strix 12 gigabyte still being up around $1,200. Anyway, so I'm saying there are discounts here, but the prices are still not going to be like the lowest prices you'll see for those types of GPUs, although maybe they're decent for the kinds of coolers that you'll get. Now, Steam Deck OS seems to be getting a major update here with 3.2, bringing on-the-fly in-screen refresh rate adjustments and more. Well, what's the and more? Well, first of all, more specifics. Basically, they're saying that you can now have the option to adjust the in-game screen refresh rate on the fly. It defaults to 60, can be frame capped to 60, 30, or 15, but it says you can now slide it down to 40 hertz with frame limits at 40, 20, and 10, or obviously any integer between those settings. Now, I think that this could be really cool for some 40 hertz gameplay at the screen's native refresh rate. So I think that's actually a really cool update for the Steam Deck. Now, they're also working on its fan behavior with some updates to that. And then another cool feature here, which I guess isn't technically part of this 3.2 update, it's a Steam client update, but reporting it here anyway, Remote Play Together, the feature that allows a friend to join your game remotely as if they're sitting on the couch next to you, is now completely functional on the Steam Deck, which is kind of interesting. Now, speaking of Steam Deck, how about some Steam Deck competitors? Aya Neo is announcing two different situations here. We've got the Aya Neo Air, and then we've also got the Aya Neo Air Plus, which is incredibly low price. That's actually lower priced than the Steam Deck. Now, these are pretty interesting. The Aya Neo Air has an OLED display, and starts for $549, so this isn't the super cheap version, and we do have some specs here. It looks like it's a 1080p display panel, and I think they just had a big specs sheet here we could just take a look at. The main problem with these, in my opinion, is the fact that they're coming with 5000 series APUs, and the problem with that is that they're Radeon Vega graphics. So to be honest, I'm not incredibly excited for these. I like that they'll have the OLED screen option, and you can dig into these spec details if you like. But what's kind of more interesting to me is this AMD Air Plus starting at $289, but this one comes with the recently announced Mendocino AMD processor, which has Zen 2 CPU cores and RDNA 2 graphics. RDNA 2 graphics, not Vega graphics. This puts it much more in line with the Steam Deck's APU. I don't think it's the same because I think technically the Steam Deck has like a custom Van Gogh whatever, but I know that the Steam Deck is Zen 2 processor cores with RDNA 2 graphics cores. So this sounds a lot more similar to that. Seems very interesting. And this Mendocino APU was announced as part of AMD's Ryzen 7000 announcement. Well, it's the Computex announcement. Anyway, what's also interesting here that we don't know how all the details on, but apparently for members of the AI community, whatever that means, there could be an opportunity to actually get this for $199 for a limited time. So anyway, based on purely the price, this could be a very interesting device with RDNA 2 graphics. Now, I don't know what sort of compromises will come to the rest of the system in order to hit that price point. I'm also curious why we're not seeing the one with the OLED screen and everything offer the RDNA 2 graphics. I don't know if we'll see a higher end version of that or what. Last couple quick things. We're seeing another QD-OLED announced, this one by MSI, and this is another ultra-wide 3440 by 1440p display. So this sounds pretty similar to Samsung's 3440 by 1440. Wait, is it Samsung or Alienware? I don't know, man. I just lost track. But the point is, we're seeing another QD-OLED announcement, ultra-wide. And if you happen to have a BIOSTAR B550, A520, or B450, or A320 motherboard, good news, we're seeing a BIOS update with Ryzen 7 5800X3D support and AGESA 1.2.07. So if you wanted to upgrade to a 5800X3D in the future or now, that will be a possibility. And I hope all of you have an excellent day.